It's now currently streaming live. Oh, yay. Welcome to another week of Create Talks. What a great summer of dreams at Create Academy and just talking to dreamers from across the world. And we welcome you all that are out there right now. And we're going to interview this amazing woman of God. Her name's Jessica, and she just her and I have been just kind of talking about what are we going to talk about, what we're going to share. And I've known Jessica for about a year, maybe a little longer, and I think it was probably a year and a half. And I met her in Create Academy Live, which begins in September again. And so be sure to just join us. Put it on your calendar. It'll be Thursday mornings at 9 a.m. PST and Thursday afternoons, I think at 6 p.m. PST. But we are going to just get to know more about Jessica, the dreamer. Jessica reminds me of someone who they live their life, they impact multiple people's lives, and they think they're not doing enough, or their life may not have that much value. How many of you may sit there and feel that way? We just don't think what we do carries much weight. And Jessica, I just want to let you know, you encourage. She is a master encourager. And we are just so glad to hear some of your story today. I read your bio. I kind of read some of the things about just your journey. Some of it just seems incredible, and other parts of it just seem like, well, this is just normal. So you're being a mom, you're being a wife, you're raising your family. So tell us a little bit about your journey and your life with your dreams, and how has that all played into it?
Whoa, what's the question, Randy?
Yeah.
Where do I begin?
Yeah, it's just tell us a little bit of a summary of your dream and your what you've been pursuing over the years, and we'll get into more details in a little bit, but just a quick summary of who you are and
Yeah, okay.
What your passions are.
Yeah. Do you know, I suppose if you'd asked me that a while ago, years ago, before I met Jesus, I would have had things that I wanted to do. I wanted to change the world. I wanted to impact nations. I wanted to be big. If I'm going to live this life, I want to live it big. And then I met Jesus, and that is my one desire. I just want to be with him. I just want to be close as I can be. And I suppose for part of the Create Academy leadership track I was on, we had to summarize that and kind of get it tight. And it was, for me, it was just to live in the intimacy within the Trinity that we've been called to. And that's just my passion. And everything else flows from that. I can't move from that place, really.
Well, that's the part I first read, about you, is everything starts with your relationship with Jesus. Everything starts with your passion for him. And from that relationship, what I pick up in your story is you get these inspirations and doors open for you to be able to do different things. And I just think that's such a key part of living out our dreams, is trying to connect with our dream, our creator who put these dreams inside of us, right? And we're trying to find them. We live our life on this, I want to say it's an adventure, but it's a life that we're living to find what I was made for. And you've been on this journey for a number of years, since you met Jesus. what are, you've also had some disappointments, but before we jump into the disappointments, can you just talk, do you have an example where maybe you, where just because of your love for Jesus, it gave you a love for your neighborhood, or it gave a life for your community, or, a passion for your community? Has there been an example with that with you?
Yeah, sure. So I think the whole of the process, really, the whole of the it's like I just sit in front of a landscape. When you're painting or whatever, you sit in front of a landscape and you just look. And I just sit there and I just look and I look and I lean into the Father, and I'm just there. We're looking at this landscape together, and I'm pointing out all this stuff to him, and he's pointing out stuff to me. And eventually I stop pointing out stuff and I just enjoy his presence and watch where he's pointing. And then I start to look with his eyes and I start to see what's going on. And then I sort of connect more fully, and we discuss, and his heart becomes some of my heart, and my heart's shared with his. And from that point, then I normally visualize stuff. I normally will go into painting it, and because for me, embodiment is so much. It's so connected with prayer, and so I'll paint it, or I'll have some movement towards what is God saying, and I'll dance, or I'll just move my hands, or I'll enjoy a moment. Maybe there's a bird, or maybe there's something that's in the landscape, and I'll just be there. And then from that, and that might be kind of a long time, I'll notice things, and so that God, like I say, is pointed out, and then there's a response that comes. So last year, after lockdown, and we're still in lockdown, and it's been building in me. I working 1 day a week with recoveries, and just the whole situation in lockdown, mental health and addiction, just domestic violence, all things spiraling off, and seeing more and more how part of the solution for the city I was in, and for so many of these places, is coming to acknowledge the situation you're in before you can start to move forward. It's like the process of grief. You have to acknowledge before you can begin to process. And so I found that I was wanting to help the city face the grief it was in, as a city, not just as a group of maybe people with addictions and mental health, but the city itself needed to face that grief before it could move forward and bring the solutions that we all needed to contribute to make a difference. So I basically, I just I networked with people, started to go out every day at first, and then once a week, with a little workshop that I would do on the street, and just random people would come along and do this workshop. So I had jars, and they were putting things in that they were grieving over because they'd lost stuff, because of mental health or addiction within the city, because it affects everybody, not just the ones who are addicted. So people were putting in things like my park, or the city centre, because the shops, the chemists are all bunged up with people that are getting methadone or whatever. Other people were putting in family members, and their teeth, and all of these things, and all these memories were stored in jars. And then this whole, I did this for over just under a year, and then at the end, these were all nailed to a Saltar cross, and that's then just been doing like a touring exhibition throughout the city.
Wow. As you were telling that story, I just was thinking, it started when you were just sitting there in your secret place. I think that's our title of this talk, is dreams coming alive from the secret place. And there is no better way to go forth and serve your community than when you're doing it from the secret place, when it's Papa God bringing that up, when he is stirring that up inside of you, and then he's going before you to open the doors. That's just incredible. It sounds so, I mean, it sounds so profound, but it was really kind of simple. You went out, talked about jars, you did workshop, you just went out to where they were at.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
and
underserved.
I was determined to keep it simple because I get really complicated. So I was like, if it's simple, I'll be able to cope. And then I suppose for me, it was paring down a lot of other things. So I mean, who likes to go by themselves onto a street anyway? And especially in lockdown when everyone was all masked and everything else. And then a lot of the people that came were, and you know, who would stop for a random stranger? You want to stop in the middle of lockdown and you want to tell me about your grief? And but people were crying, and people were just in a mess on the street. And I was just being, there were 3 people that I didn't get the chance to pray with, that I didn't leave something with, because I always took prophetic art with me, and I would give that to them as well as the things that they were putting in. And that, you know, and there were verses, and I mean, 3 people that didn't want that, but they were in God's presence when they were creating the work. It was just an extraordinary thing, and it really unveiled to me more fully just how desperately people need Jesus, and are wanting, they're waiting out there for us to go out, you know. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, and most people their fear will stop them from doing that. But I believe what happened with you is you were filled with the compassion of the Father's heart. And you know, perfect love will what? Overcome fear, right? And there you are. I don't know if you as a little girl thought, when I grow up, that's what I want to do. Or maybe this was something that was birthed when you were really young, to where it's like you had this heart for the disabled. And you also do things, I mean, I think you do quite a bit with refugees too, but those that are marginalized in society, those that are either handicapped or new, and they don't, I know that they're on these journeys. Sometimes you deal with either a disappointment or you hit a dead end in what you think you're trying to achieve. Can you share a little bit about maybe how you ran into one of those, and how did you get onto the other side?
Oh gosh. Well, I've got some notes for this, so sorry if because I don't want to forget anything, you know. So actually I feel like God, it's the same with everybody, isn't it? There isn't anything that we go through that God can't redeem and use, and we aren't just one side. We're sort of multifaceted. So and nothing is wasted in his economy. There isn't one thing that he just does one thing with. It's never just like that. It's just like this. It's just everywhere. He's just incredible. So for me, education was a big stumbling block. I didn't start to read until I was about 10. And obviously that had a really big impact on me, and how I was shaped and molded through the education system. And so one of the things that I stood against really when I became a Christian when I was 17, so I was just at the end of that education journey, if you like. And I encountered Jesus in such a profound way. I just knew his love. And I didn't, none of this, but it was all of this. I just knew. And so he helped me to stop rehashing the kind of toxic narratives that education had given me. And he helped me put on my helmet of salvation, and he helped me put on his mind, and he helped me keep on that hope. And I just carry around, I got into the habit from him instructing me really to write down passages that would counter that from the Bible, to write down what he said about me and what he thought. And I would carry them around and just read them out loud all the time, just all the time, because I couldn't do life without that. And so that was one. And then the other major thing was my health. So oh yeah, and no, so another thing around that education thing was, you know, to take down that, I felt like God said, what have you got in your hands? And all I had was art. That's all I could do, because I mean I didn't do reading, so I was like, okay, so I'm going to train in art. So I went, so I applied and I did all of this, and I started to train in art. And then as I was doing that, realized I wouldn't get a job afterwards. And I needed a job, and I wasn't going to waste my life doing something that wasn't worthwhile. So I felt, well, community education, community development was kind of where I was at. So I then did a little course in that too, so I could function and get money. Then I hit my health, and I was 20 years, so I kind of got out of education, and then I was 20, I got unwell, and I just got worse. I got the flu, and I got worse and worse. And I was 20 years in a wheelchair, and 5 years housebound. So I couldn't, I was in a lot of pain in all of this time. I couldn't stand being touched or touching. So I had really, me touching myself, had really, really short hair, and I couldn't brush my hair or brush my teeth, or, there was some things I just couldn't do. Couldn't lift up my babies when I had children, and things like this. And these things, like I was saying, in the process of finding out, these things condense what life is really about. They kind of solidify, if you like, what is important to you, and what is really significant. And all the other stuff is kind of fluff. And I mean, I know everybody's answer to that is different. My answer was Jesus. My answer was, it is only that. If I'm not found in that place of being beloved, then there is no reason to live. And so it was like, absolutely, this was the thing that held me through the days and the years of not being able to go outside, or not being able to look at light, of not, all of these things. And so just, I think, facing questions head on, and facing them, and then facing God with those questions head on, and taking the small, and realizing that there's only small things with great love. That's it. There isn't anything else. So yeah.
Jessica, I mean, you just say that as if it's, wow, I just went through it. I'm just thinking of the weightiness of it, the glory of it. The fact of the matter is, most people would just sit there and say, they lose hope. They would give up. But you had Jesus, and you clung to Jesus, and here you are. You left a wheelchair behind, didn't you? Somewhere?
Yeah. But Randy, I think it's not as straightforward as, you had Jesus, so that was all right. Because life is life, isn't it? It's kind of like this, and he's the one with the everlasting arms, and we just have to kind of rest in that. Not straightforward, but very, he really came close. I mean, when you can't think, no, I'm doing it. When you forget what the beginning of the sentence was by the end of it, because your brain is so addled with all the pain and everything, you can't hold conversation. So when you're trying to pray in that situation, you're like, what am I doing, Lord? You're all I've got, and I can't even pray. And he's going, but you're just being with me, and that's enough. Then and that's day after day after day. You have 20 years of that, it starts to impact you a little. I have to listen to this.
Wow, yes.
Okay, Father, I'm beloved, I surrender. That's all I am, is your beloved.
Right, and then as you surrender, but you're also continuously intentional to the promptings of the Spirit. You're looking for opportunities to love and encourage your world. I mean,
that's crucial.
Yeah, I think anybody I've been around that I bring up the name Jessica, they just sit there and they say, she is a master encourager. She will encourage you. I don't know where she gets it from, but I think we all know now. It comes from the heart of the Father, because you just want to share with others what the heart of the Father is, right? So
yeah.
I want you guys to go ahead and put some questions in the chat for Jessica. If you have any questions, please put them in. We do have somebody in the chat that her name, this is a new name to me. I haven't met her. Her name's Naveed Melness, and I need your prayers. I'm serving in a small village. And so So here's somebody that's out there like you that is serving. And we're going to pray for you in a little bit there, Naveed. We want to release, maybe we'll do a prophetic word for Naveed, okay? And we'll just kind of speak over that saint and just sit there and say, we'll just have encouragement so you do not grow weary in doing good. Did you ever grow weary?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think that's all of it, isn't it? Because if we don't come to the end of ourselves, then we can't really find God. I realized that if my hands were full, I couldn't hold the Father's hands. You know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that's a moment by moment thing. And if we haven't actually been forced to come to that position, we need to bring ourselves to that position. It's walk humbly before your God, isn't it? It's like it's an act of your will. And like you were saying about the intentionality, Randy, I think I feel about 3 years in, I'm rubbish with numbers. It was around that time of being unwell and being stuck in the house and not feeling the wind and not seeing the sky properly, all of this stuff. I was just like, oh, okay, what are we going to do with this, you know? And I was really challenged because I felt like God said, well, have you given me your life or not?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, but this is a waste of life. But I have friends now who have, been in prisoners of war camp and been in prisons serving, because of Jesus. And they would say the same, gosh, I did nothing in there. I was moody. I would grumble. I didn't cope with it very well, all of this stuff. And yet you come to the point, you go, well, do you know what? If I've given him my life and this is how he wants me to live, how can I live it best for him and not be bitter and not be self-pitying and not be full of fear and all of those things. And it is in the intentionality of reaching out all the time, of giving, of going.
That's so good. That's so good. I just sit there. I just think about Joseph, he went from the pit and he went to the Potiphar's house and he went to the prison and for many, many years. And it's like, what is this the dream? It's all the process. I don't know why, but I would think you would agree now if you weren't in that position, your secret place, your secret time with the Father would not have reached the levels it would have if you just lived the normal life of running off to the job, running off to this, running off to that. You were there. The Lord had you captivated. He had you where he's saying, it's you and me. I know you'd like to be outside. I know you'd like to be doing different things. But from that pit, from that prison where you felt like I can't go above and beyond, and the examples you shared of others that are there's saints across the world that have been persecuted and jailed, and people say, is this really what the dream is? Is this really what life is about? And it is about bringing glory to Jesus, regardless of the situation that you go through. And so I want to ask you, Jessica, let me see, I'm just sitting there and go, hey, Deborah from North Carolina, welcome. And we also have Stephanie Bauer. She thinks small things with great love is what she said. Yes, small things with great love can become great things, right? And of course, Helene, Jessica, you're such a sweetheart. Love you guys joining us today. I just wanted to ask you about your passion. What do you want to be known for, Jessica? What is your passion, your personal vision?
Okay, it's just a small one, really. So yeah, it's there's a number of things. I'm going to read them out. Yeah. So it's to have Jesus of Nazareth's ceiling as my floor, and to encourage other people and enable other people to live in the same way. To be encountering God on every side and every time, and to live within the Trinity's dance and flow, so that because that's where I'm invited to be. And if
Yeah.
I'm living within him, within the Trinity, then other people can join. They get to see it because I'm embedding it. I'm embodying his invitation then. And if I don't do that well, then they can't see it. They can't receive the invitation properly. However that looks, whether I'm doing something visual or whether I'm doing something that's directly influencing the community, or whether I'm just washing up.
Yeah. Just great. I love the fact that you started out with your passion. It just started with that secret place. It's with just connecting with the Father. And I think we do have a question here. Lisa, remember Lisa Hendrickson? Yeah, we love her from Nebraska. Do you ever feel a bit overwhelmed by the pain of others you are serving? Good question, Lisa.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think that's probably a constant. Like, you feel a little bit overwhelmed with your pain sometimes, and then you feel overwhelmed with other people's pain, and then you get into God's presence, and then you're just overwhelmed by his love. It's like, do you know what? Okay, this is kind of that big, and he's kind of this big. And I think it's part of the embrace of the mystery that is with it, that we hold in tension in our lives, that is then it stretches some more. It's like maybe people that have one child and then have another and then another, and they find that they've got love for all of them somehow. Yeah, so yes, and the way I deal with it is just bringing it into God's presence. But I feel it intensely, and often I have to visualize it or get it out somehow too. Otherwise, I carry it.
Right. I know that kind of, I'm thinking of Heidi Baker at the moment, right? Heidi Baker, who just serves in Mozambique and was just down in Reading here this last week for Benny's memorial. But, you know, there's something that we've learned is God is God, and we're a servant of his, but we really are ones to bring hope, right? If we bring hope and we just point them to where their hope comes from, then it gives them a chance to get through their pain within their own secret place, right? With the Creator. And there's been many missionaries that have gotten a lot of PTSD or just a lot of emotional trauma because of what they experience and the pain and the hurt. And I think you touched on it too. It's a joy. It is tapping into the joy and the peace of the Lord. And circumstances can be crazy. The storm can be nuts, but the peace can come forth to calm the storm. Doesn't mean it necessarily goes away. It just is. It's just different.
Yeah, and
So,
it's keeping the right helmet on too,
yep.
Randy. It's listening to the right stuff, it's the intentionality.
Yes, it is. And Lori Dobbins, welcome. Hey, can you talk about the risk you've taken to bring God to the world?
Wow, that's a great question. Do you know, yeah, I think, how do I talk about the risk? Do you want to know what the risks are? or you want to know how did I do it with thinking on the risk anyway? I'm not sure.
It just says talk about the risk. I guess she's giving you the ability to answer as the Holy Spirit leads.
Sure. So the risks have been huge for me. I feel like, I spoke about the education. So being 10 and just starting to learn to read then, and then deciding at 18 that I was going to apply for college or university or whatever, secondary education. That for me was a really big risk then. That was a huge thing. I was putting myself out there. Then last year, going by myself to to run these workshops with no permissions or anything else, and nobody else doing anything. And that was a big risk for me, because fear of man is like a really big deal. So the risk, those are some risks. How I handled those were, okay, so it wasn't, I was thinking of this during the week. It's not like, feeling the fear and doing it anyway, because then you're doing it out of fear. It was seeing the fear, bringing the fear to God, going, God, this is too much. How do I do this? How do I do this conversation? How do I do this? And until that wrestle has been wrestled, and it's got this size, and his mystery and love has got this big. And then I go in security into the fear. Does that make sense? So I see the fear, and instead of just feeling the fear and doing it anyway, I see the fear, I feel the fear, I take the fear into God's presence, and I sit with him and I wrestle with it, and I point all those things out, like standing in front of that landscape, until it's condensed to the one thing. And the one thing inevitably is his eyes and his voice and his heartbeat and the colors that he gives me. And then I can go forward. And when I lose that, I sit down again and I look at the landscape.
Yes. Yes. And maybe what I'd like to do is have you say, how do you use art to try to connect? Because Peter Rossi, thanks for joining us. He asked, is this for art students? I know Create Academy is for all creatives, artists, writers, dancers, singers, businessmen that are needing creative ideas to solve problems, medical professionals that are looking for solutions to and ways to heal and solve medical issues. So Create Academy is all about all types of creation. But one of the things that, Jessica, you've done is you've used art on the streets, right? I think you did a project or something. And maybe talk a little bit about how do we use art to help bring about the healing process?
Yeah, well, like all of those things that you've just said, they externalize and they make visible the invisible stuff. And so that's how I've used creativity to help people make visible their invisible stuff, and then go kind of bring that together to make that voice louder. And if this invisible is turned into something beautiful, then people are more attracted to look at it. And so I've done stuff with people, say refugees, as memorial things, and we've taken something that's really ugly and really devastatingly horrific, and sought to reposition it so that it can be in some ways made beautiful and dignified. So lives that were lost can be remembered properly. I don't feel like I'm answering your question, but it's like bringing dignity. Yeah, bring dignity to the whole situation and bringing humanity there, like you would encapsulate a bird that's been broken, or needing to be tended. You're just like really gently unfolding it and placing it somewhere where it's going to recover. So I've used visual art and movement and music and poetry to enable people to position it in a different manner so it can heal. And that also brings unity to themselves, which then means that they can connect with the Creator, who's bringing unity to them and wants them to live in unity with him.
Wow. Yeah, and I'd like to build on what you said there with Teresa Dedman, her testimony when she was invited to go to Rwanda after the genocides that happened there, and she took the Create to Be Free course, and they did it live to hundreds of orphans, and she used art to basically help them understand where they're at, what they're feeling, and to let it go. And so art has that ability to in many forms to help people get set free. And I know Create to Be Free is one of the courses that we'll do at Create Academy Live starting in September. I am not quite sure when we do that class, but it will be done in the next 9 months or so. But thank you for that. What I'd like to do is, do you feel like you might have a word for, I want to go back to Naveed, I believe is his the name. He just wanted some prayers and because he's serving in a small village. And just, do you have a word of encouragement for him?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I do. Yeah, actually, I picked up these pegs earlier, and I feel they're for you. And basically, I feel like God's saying, these are the things that position. They position stuff rightly on the line so that the washing can dry. And I feel like God's saying He's put things in your hand that will help you position the situations rightly and the people rightly, and you'll be able to see them correctly, but you'll also be able to see they'll be able to see the light, the sunshine will dry them, and they'll be able to change and move on, and you'll see that transformation. But it's ordinary things that you've got actually in your hand just now that God's saying He's given you, and maybe you're to reposition those so that you can position other things rightly. Yeah, let me know if that means anything, and if you need me to tweak that, because there's a little bit more in that. Perhaps you can sit with it with God. Actually, Father, I pray that you would reveal to Naveen exactly what you're meaning by the positioning, what things are in their hands. Lord, sometimes we get confused. There's so much going around, and it's an intense time when we're serving by ourselves and not really knowing where to begin or what effect what we're doing is having. I pray that you would show them very carefully what things you've placed in their hands, and then how to use these things to position those other situations effectively so they can see the sunlight. Amen.
All right, amen. Naveed, we just want to release peace and then new hope in you. I love this quote. I think Pastor or Steve Backlund, I think, says it. He says, "He who has the most hope in the room has the most influence." And I just pray that as you're in that village, as you're doing what you're doing, I just release hope, that you're a hope carrier, that you are one that wherever you go, people say, wow, when he comes around, when she comes around, I have hope. When I was hopeless, all of a sudden I felt like there's something's going to change. And so, woo, I'm so excited for that, Naveed. And Peter Rossi, thanks for joining us today. I just love your comments today. He said, as you were speaking earlier, he talked about the contrast and he talked about transcending. And so he was just tracking with you there, Jessica, and just capturing the things. So Helene and Lori and all those that have joined us today, we just bless you. And before we end this session, do you have one thing, Jessica, to say to those that are watching to encourage them in their dreams? What would you say?
Oh gosh, I've actually written it down because you gave me this question and it's so important to me. I didn't want to miss anything, so I'll kind of refer to this at the same time. Yeah. So I want to say a few things, not just one, sorry, sneaking in. So first of all, it doesn't look the same, and it doesn't have to look the same. So your life is your life. God's crafted it and He's created it in an amazing way. And it doesn't look the same as anyone else's, and it won't. So don't expect it to. If you've given your life to Him, then it's His life and it's not yours. So get over yourself and plant all your pains into the rich soil of His heart. And maybe you'll see what grows, maybe you won't. But it's in good soil, and that's what counts. God knows what He's doing. Here's another one. The other thoughts: get past the conveyor belt thing, that you have to have more. Just release it all, so you've got no fear. There's no fear of lack, and there's no needs. There's only one thing that matters, and there is only one thing that counts. And you know what that is already. Faith working itself out through love. So if you've got stuff in your hands, you can't hold the Father's hand. So let go of it and just focus on that one thing. It doesn't matter what other people think. It matters what's in his eyes for you, and that's love, and that's it. Yeah, and do everything from that bedrock of being the beloved. And I think that's I'm speaking to myself as much, but that's it. If we can't do that, that's what we're called to. The rest will flow.
Wow, you just dropped some wisdom there. And it is a good thing this is a Create Academy, and you can, or this is on, it's going to be posted, and you can hit the pause button and you can go back. And I would encourage you to go back and just write down those 4 or 5 ideas, just because sometimes you think you have a dream, and then when you get there, it's not going to quite look the way you thought it was. Joseph had a dream that everybody was going to bow down to him, but I'm sure there was no way he thought people were going to bow down to him as a second in charge of Egypt to get grain. And I do believe that God takes us through the journey. He takes us through the process, Jessica, to mold us and to shape us, and so that we're ready for the dream and the world's ready for us to release, to live in that dream. And so what a pleasure, what a joy it's been just getting to know more about your journey, Jessica. You are a wealth of intimacy with the Father, where you just carry wisdom, and you carry his heart so well. And I tell you what, those are key things along the process towards your dreams, is to just sit there and stay connected from that secret place. I don't know when I'm going to forget the fact that from that secret place, looking outside, and all of a sudden you start thinking about the refugees, and you start thinking about the need, and then you come up with an idea. And I believe people watching this, like I think Stephanie said, small things with great love. Don't despise small beginnings. It takes just meeting with one, and maybe that's it. It's just your ministry may be to one at a time, but as God brings them into your life. So, woo! I'd like to ask that you would pray and maybe just impart a little bit of that secret place intimacy with that you've experienced, and just release it over those watching right now. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'd also like to just really release healing over people, because yeah, that's something else, and being interconnected. So yeah, just receive, guys. Oh God. Lord, I just thank you for your love and your goodness to us. I thank you for your beauty. And I pray, Lord God, that you would fill us with your spirit of wisdom and revelation. Every person that watches this would know your love in a whole new way, that they would strengthen themselves inside themselves and their inner man, that they would be able to grasp even more fully just how much you love them, that you would be their focus, and you would be their dream, and you would be their total and utter desire. And Father, I pray that you would move in power in us, that we would be holy as you are holy, and just love you with everything that we have, that there wouldn't be anything that we would hold back. And I pray that your total healing would come across every person that's watching this. Lord, heal us, save us, and deliver us. You have completed it. Please work it out in us so that we can demonstrate it and embody it. I release healing and wholeness in Jesus' name. Be healed and know your belovedness. Amen.
Amen. And Simone, I pray that you receive that prayer. I saw that you requested some prayer, and I just pray that you just receive just the peace of God, and that you, whatever your needs are, he sees them, he experiences them with you, and he walks with you. And we are just so excited that you have joined us today. And we just say, Jesus, today, just meet Simone in her secret place and take her to that next level and start to what Jessica prayed. I pray that you will release just an encounter with her and anyone else that wants an encounter with you right now. We thank you all for joining us. Hey, next Monday, if you're part of Create Academy, we will be having the third webinar in our Dream Bootcamp Summer. We'll be talking about how do you steward what's already in your hand. And I think, Jessica, you really touched on some of that. I'm going to probably tap into some of that as I finish the lesson there. But we'll be doing that Tuesday or Monday morning at 9 a.m. PST. And it's August, believe it or not, before you know it, Create Academy Live will be happening on Thursdays. And we will be looking forward to meeting like Simone, who you just joined Create Academy a little bit ago, and others. We just are ready to just get into small groups with you and love on you and cry with you and bring hope to you, etc. So we thank you for joining us. Jessica, thank you for saying yes to the invite to share your story and your process and your dreams. And we just ask God to bless you as you continue to make an impact in your community. And for all of you watching, I just want to remind you all, you are all born to create. And so continue to create, I pray. And I think I'm going to use this word of, I think it was what Mr. Rossi said. He basically said something about art. And he said, always trust the Lord and his nature and do your art with the knowledge that you're trying to bless Jesus with it. That is the heart of Teresa Dedman. That is the heart of the Father. That is what we do art for. Whatever we create, it's so that we're trying to bless Christ first, and then he allows us to use what we create to impact others. So until next week, be safe, be in the secret place. We love you all. Thanks for watching.